So I want you, every one of you, to be convicted. Don't look for consensus. Do something. Amplify Muslim women's voices who are from South Asia in particular. Thank you.
3 very practical things. First, share this video with 10 friends. Second, post this video to 5 feminist organizations that have not spoken about this and ask them why that hasn't happened. Third, follow every single organization represented up on this panel that is fighting against global gendered violence.
Well, last in the alphabet, Zipperstein. 2 quick things. 1, demand of your elected representatives that every public school teacher from kindergarten to the UC system be required to watch this film before the school year starts again in September. Number 2, let's express our appreciation to our Muslim sisters and brothers who displayed incredible courage tonight.
Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you, Rabbi Barron. Thank you, everybody, and every one of you is so precious. The one thing that I have to leave you with is life is precious for all of us. There are desserts outside and everybody can socialize. I know how hard it's been to watch this film. And I hope all of you are not leaving right now because we are having a panel of people that have a lot to say about what you've just seen and the impact on this community, on the entire world, on Israel, and on Gaza, the Muslim world, and everyone. And most important, all women. With me now is an eyewitness. You saw him in the film. He's somebody who's been working for Zaka for many years. And he was the first responder to these brutalities. We asked him to come here tonight to speak to you and to tell you why this moment is so important to him and why is it important to tell everyone what he really saw. This is somebody who's dedicated 30 years of his life to rescuing, and even he was silenced with such shock at what he saw and what he experienced. Please welcome Simcha Gunnerman.
We saw this evening are little drops what we dealt with, hundreds of bodies. Understanding what these women went through, moments of horrific situation, the minutes of life. 32 years of volunteering Zaka International, going around the world, rescuing people in hard situations after earthquakes, tsunami, 9/11, terror attacks around the world, Bombay and different facing so many bodies naked is something that you cannot imagine. You're not prepared for a situation like this in your life. Dealing with the situation, seeing what they went through, working with my own hands, living the moments of their last seconds. I am the testimony. I am the alive testimony standing before you, before the world, speaking for them. I am the number after this Holocaust. The purpose of this movie is not facing only tragedy that happened in Israel, but understanding what humanity is. All these people around the world that are suffering of abuses, of sexual women, of different places around the world. This is for sure something that has to stop. Does not mean, it doesn't make any difference of the culture of the person that we're facing or we're dealing with, but the understanding what humanity is. Every person is God's creation. Every human that lives in this world is God's creation. It does not make a difference your culture. It does not make a difference who you are. But as we stand here, we have to make sure that it never happens again. We have to shout. We have to scream. We have to do whatever is possible that it should never happen, ever, around the world. We have to understand that humanity is number one of life, of caring one for each other. And peace around the world will be peace in our houses, in our families, in our generation to come. Thank you.
This event would not have happened if not for Heidi Basch. Heidi, I would like you to introduce every one of our panelists because you've done such a great job in helping make this happen. Please.
Thank you, Daphna. Good evening, everyone. I'm Heidi Basch-Harod from Women's Voices Now. And the first panelist I'd like to introduce is Dr. Steven Zipperstein, Senior Scholar at the UCLA Center for Middle East Development. And he's also a visiting professor at Tel Aviv University Law School and a visiting lecturer at the Hertie School in Berlin. The next panelist I'd like to introduce is Dr. Caroline Heldman, Chair of the Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies Department at Accidental College, and founder and CEO of Stand With Survivors. Caroline has led successful campaigns to abolish the time limit for prosecuting rape in California and passed legislation to eliminate NDAs that silence survivors. She has done incredible work in politics and gender justice and co-founded the End Rape on Campus and Faculty Against Rape organizations. The next speaker is Soraya Dean, founder of Muslim Women Speakers. She's an award-winning Muslim feminist lawyer, international activist, community organizer, and speaker. She visited Israel after the October 7th attacks and now speaks within the U.S. and internationally on topics of a homeland for Israel and the Jewish people, fights against anti-Semitism, and for the need to condemn Hamas. Our next speaker, Ahmed Fuad al-Khatib, is a Palestinian peace activist from Gaza. He's a U.S. citizen as well. He's a Middle East political analyst who writes extensively on Gaza's political and strategic affairs, and he's a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and many other things. Our next panelist is Zainab Khan. She is the founder of the Muslim American Leadership Alliance, celebrating Muslim Americans' dynamic contributions through art and culture to America. And after October 7th, she became vocal on addressing anti-Semitism in the Muslim world and here in the United States. Our next panelist is Anila Ali, founder of the American Muslim and Multi-Faith Women's Empowerment Council, which seeks to confront bigotry in all of its forms, celebrate cultural heritage, and build relationships with Americans of all faiths. She also visited Israel shortly after the October 7 attacks and is now advocating for Holocaust education in Muslim communities. And Roz Rothstein, who's the co-founder and CEO of Stand With Us, educating people of all ages and faiths and fighting the newest forms of anti-Semitism. Forward magazine has twice named Roz one of the 50 most influential Jews in America, and in 2011, and again in 2016, the Jerusalem Post named her as one of the 50 most influential Jews in the world.
And the one and only Heidi, who has spent so much of her life really bringing to the entertainment industry true stories about women at risk, those voices that otherwise would never be heard. I'm so proud of you, Heidi. You know, one of the things that are so important about this evening is for all of us, to think about one moment that everyone knows about. It's the moment when a baby is born. It's that moment of creation. And we all gasp at that moment. And we look at that baby. We wait for baby's eyes to open, because in those eyes is the hope of the world. There's nothing sadder than when you see in those eyes fear, when you see in those eyes helplessness, hopelessness, because that, my dear friends, is so much of what we are seeing today everywhere. The reality is that intolerance, as I said, and hate, excuse me, have been so normalized. The reality is that sex trafficking is a $300 billion business on the back of young girls from all cultures, which is unacceptable. I have seen 6-year-old girls being sold for $1 in DRC because the girl was hungry, and with that $1 she bought a cup of rice for herself and her family. What we've seen here is so much worse. The idea that you can use women as weapons of war by raping